herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
We hear the stories. It's not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
And if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
It ain't an easy job, but when you ain't lost to one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
What's up, guys? Boy Benny. This is the crossover event you've all been waiting for. Donald Trump live on Tim Pool's show. Finally happened last night. Our friend Tim Pool has the top political streaming show on all of YouTube. And Donald Trump finally made an appearance on the program. For the first hour and a half, however, it was Kash Patel talking about the corrupt government. But at the 1:30 mark, Tim ticks over to Donald Trump, who joins the program in a hilarious sort of like off-camera commentary between these two, and talking about a meeting at Mar-a-Lago, and Donald Trump calling Tim beautiful. Watch.
President Donald J. Trump.
Good. Mr. President, this is your seat we have for you right here.
How are you? Nice to
I'm very good. Nice to see you. We met at Mar-a-Lago a couple weeks ago.
I remember.
Yeah, you complimented my face. I really do appreciate it.
Your beauty.
Thanks for sitting down. I really do appreciate it. So I know you don't have a lot of time, so I'll just we'll jump right in.
Okay, good.
We had a couple polls we went over on our show, IRL. Young people, surprisingly, immigration is a top issue for them now. I was talking to a young guy, he's 26.
The interview then veered quite quickly into Donald Trump and Tim Pool talking about the varying issues of the day. The interview was a total of 17 minutes long, but Tim was able to get in a lot of questions, but also called Donald Trump the greatest president of his lifetime, to which Donald Trump was very appreciative.
When it came to foreign policy, I'll be honest, I didn't vote for you in 2016. I was jaded. Obama let me down. I'm from Chicago. I thought 2016 was silly. And then in 2020, with the timeline for getting out of Afghanistan,
Right.
when you tried to get our troops out of Syria, my question is, why are we in Syria? Who even knew?
Yeah.
And they lied to you, and they lied to us about the number of troops in there. And so maybe it's a bit blunt for me to say I want to see people prosecuted for the lies to the American people. But in terms of foreign policy, perhaps there's a little bit of a biased interview, but I think you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
I appreciate it.
And ending the wars that we should not have been involved in. Now the fear is World War III.
Yeah.
What are you looking at when you enter your next term to stopping the escalation?
Well, first of all, I'm the only one that is going to stop World War III, because this man can't put two sentences together. He doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know where he is. And amazingly, it seems like he's going to be running. You know, it's a lot of people say, do you think he'll make it to the starting gate? Well, we'll see what happens. But if you look at Viktor Orban, because we don't want to see wars. I don't want to see wars. I was in no wars other than we finished a war with ISIS, and we completed it, 100% complete. But I don't want to see wars. I think it's so horrible, so unnecessary, so costly in terms of lives and money in that order, and destroying these countries. You know, you're destroying culture. When you look at Ukraine, that would have never happened if I were president. You look at the October 7th attack on Israel, it would have never happened.
I look at your policies, I see secure the borders, bring jobs back. I look at the Democrats and many Republicans, and it's foreign war and foreign expansion.
That's right.
What is that?
I think it's just a failed mentality. It's crazy. You can solve problems over a telephone. Instead, they start dropping bombs. I see recently they're dropping bombs all over Yemen. You don't have to do that. You can talk in such a way where they respect you and they listen to you. Viktor Orban of Hungary, you know, the leader, they call him a strong man. Who cares if he's a strong man or not a strong man? He's a very powerful guy. He said the problem the world has is that Donald Trump is no longer president. When he was president, China didn't play around, Russia didn't play around, nobody played around, and we had no problems. Today, the whole world is on fire.
It's very raw. It's authentic. Donald Trump commenting that you can just make peace with people. And that's okay. It's all right to just pick up the phone call and to not go to nuclear war or not stop dropping bombs. And that, of course, is a horrible, horrible thing for the people inside of the Beltway to hear, because the monopoly that they own is a monopoly on war and violence. And that is why every single member of Congress tends to own war stocks, and Boeing and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. It's why they're getting rich off of military expansionism at the expense of course, our national debt and, of course, the loss of lives in these poor regions that get bombed to hell because we refuse to make peace. Donald Trump refuses to make peace with the army of criminal aliens in this country. Donald Trump saying he's going to give law enforcement immunity for mass deportations. This making a lot of news out of this interview. Trump suggests he'll give immunity to police to carry out mass deportations to immigrant. We have no choice. Donald Trump talking in very strong terms about immigration.
Immigration is a top issue for them now. I was talking to a young guy, he's 26. He says he's watching what's going on in New York. He owns a business. He can't afford to buy his own house. He struggles to be able to support a family. And I know that you've said that there's going to be the largest deportation effort in your next term. How do we do it?
So millions and millions of people are coming into our country, and it's not necessarily exactly what we want or had in mind. They have open borders where people just flow in. And many of those people are coming from prisons. Many of those people, frankly, are murderers and they're drug dealers, and they're coming from mental institutions, and they're coming from places that are not going to work very well. It's not going to be very good for our country. So we're going to start with that, and we have to get them out. No country can sustain what we're going through. I believe the number is 15, 16 million, could even be 17 million people right now.
Is
that's more than that's bigger than almost all of our states.
I think it's freaking out young people. How do we do it, though? I mean, is it going to be new personnel?
It will really be done with local police. You know, the respect has been taken away. The honor has been taken away from our police forces. They're not allowed to do anything. And whether it's libertarian or not libertarian, you have to have law and order. You can't have 500 people walking into a department store and just walking out with everything they have. And we have to give honor and respect back, and I believe immunity, because, you know, so often when a police person does their job, they end up with no pension, they end up with no house, they end up with no family. Everything's taken away from them. They have to get their own lawyer. So we're going to give them back their dignity and their strength. The local police know the criminals that we're talking about. They know their first name, their middle name, and their last name. They know everything about them. And we're going to have to let them do that. And they will bring them in. We have no choice. And these are, in many cases, and this is from all over the world, not just South America, which is big enough, but they're coming in from the Congo. They're coming in from all parts of Africa. They're coming in from all parts of Asia. And it's an invasion into our country. And no country can handle this. So we're going to have them taken out. Local police, we're going to work very closely with the local police. And it's been done before. We had Dwight Eisenhower, believe it or not, did the biggest deportation. He pretty much stopped it. Strange that we mentioned Eisenhower because you don't think of him that way, but he did a massive deportation where people were pouring in.
So Trump's clearly studied this, obviously understands that there's going to be immunity needed for law enforcement, and that law and order must reign in this country, and you cannot have the largest child and human smuggling operation being run out of our government. We're not run by a bunch of child smugglers and predators, are we? Don't ask too many questions. Yeah. One of my favorite questions that Tim asked was a question about walking into North Korea, which I viewed as the sort of zenith of the Trump administration, when Donald Trump walked into North Korea and was clapped on the shoulder by Kim Jong-un, welcomed into a country that we're technically at war with right now. And I view it as peak Trump administration. I view this as the pinnacle, ladies and gentlemen. What was it like for Donald Trump?
So part of my family comes from Korea.
Good.
And you did what I think is one of the most tremendous things. You crossed the demilitarized zone into North Korea with no security as a sign of goodwill and peace with the hostile nation. And I've had people tell me it never happened. So I think people need to know about it. And I'm wondering if you can just tell me, how did that happen? How did it come to be?
And it hasn't happened since.
Yeah.
And when I met with, the handoff, you sort of meet with the previous president for a period of time. The meeting lasted for quite a while. With President Obama, you sit in the Oval Office and you talk, and the press is outside, and you talk for a little while. He said the single greatest threat we have is North Korea. And I said, have you called them? Have you tried to talk to them? Little things like that. And didn't matter what the answer was. He felt that was the single biggest threat in the world was North Korea. And as you know, there was certain hostility when I first started, and all of a sudden it boiled down to something that was very beautiful, the way it happened. And I got along with him very well. And I will say that if Hillary won that race, you would have had a nuclear war and millions of people would have been killed. And you weren't even close to that. It never happened. It was never going to happen. I got along great with him, and it just never was going to happen.
Donald Trump, the Secret Service wasn't thrilled when he walked into North Korea, but the rest of us were, at least sane people who want peace and not war. Donald Trump tells Tim Pool Fauci wasn't a big player in my administration. Biden made him king of everything, and that he's open to prosecuting Fauci. Going to be looking quite a bit at that very seriously when talking about whether he'll hold Dr. Fauci accountable for lying to Congress, as Dr. Fauci has done dozens of times. Donald Trump on whether he'll pardon Julian Assange. We're going to look at it very, very seriously. This has made international news headlines. Julian Assange, as far as I can tell, just effectively was a reporter who reported things that the government was doing. And the government has never denied that they were doing these things, but they didn't like the fact that you now know about it. How is that land of the free? I don't know. How is this the home of the brave? Not sure exactly. Got to be perfectly honest. This is something that leaves all of us gobsmacked. Like how exactly? How in a society that has a First Amendment is Julian Assange somebody who gets prosecuted? He's a journalist who reported out true things, and he's being punished, not the government that engaged in numerous crimes. Got it. Okay. Doesn't make any sense. Good thing for Donald Trump to say there. That's obviously probably one of the biggest takeaways from the interview. If Hillary won that race, there would have been a nuclear war. Millions of people would have been killed. Donald Trump is the vote for peace. Trump also said no to central bank digital currencies. So that's very, very good. The final hot mic moment at the end of the interview is charming.
We're not going to have a country.
Yeah. We better win. We're not going to have a country. We like the style. We like the very authentic podcast style with Trump. Haven't really seen much of that before. I think the Nelk Boys maybe the only other podcast where Trump just kind of sat and chilled. And good for Tim. Tim works incredibly hard. We consider him a friend, and we're really happy for him. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe so we can get our first Trump interview on this show. Let's go.